Support for this podcast comes from the Bushwick Book Club, Seattle, staging a monthly evening of original music inspired by literature since 2010. For upcoming events and more information, please visit thebushwickbookclubseattle.com. Howdy, folks. Tom here. This is a bonus episode from Stories to Write Songs About, the podcast that takes a story and presents an original song inspired by it. This is a series called Deconstructed, a deep dive into the writing and recording process for each of the songs from the first season of Stories to Write Songs About. This is episode 2, talking about a new kind of love. So the second episode of Season 1 featured a Seattle writer named Calvin Gimpelevich. He read an excerpt from a novel in process, and the novel is going to be titled Tenderloin. The story is bizarre, jarring, and imaginative, and if you haven't listened to it, I encourage you to do so now. To a brief synopsis of it, it's centers around a main character who kind of has a rough go at life. It opens with them experiencing religious services where they fake speaking in tongues, and you piece together that they have spent some time in juvie and have just a pretty, excuse my language, pretty shitty life, and ends up working at a fast food chain. And on their walk home one night, they see a vision of themselves, or a ghost, they think, and it's a reflection of themselves as a woman, and the character is a man. Very jarring for them, and they try to get drunk to try to forget the image, but they keep seeing it, and ultimately it acts as a catalyst for them to get out and ignore their parole officer and to seek refuge with the people they know in San Francisco. So the song itself, A New Kind of Love, in writing this song, I had a chord progression that was a little disorienting. It's a 6/8 pattern starting on C sharp minor, and it's a chromatic a descending chromatic progression down to kind of B flat. And what is bizarre about the kind of makeup of it is that it's in 6/8, but the whole phrase is 7 measures long, which creates an unfinished sense in the music. So, like I said in the first episode, the way I write is I usually get a chord progression and work out a melody. So in playing this, I had the verses for a long time, and I kept kind of playing around with the melody and kind of landed on what it is now, which is the ba da 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 da. Take my words with a delicate hand. A face unafraid, their consequences lustful and lewd, they have spewed from my mouth, cloaked in a language not understood, convulsing. And then in the second half of it, it goes up. So da 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 dum, da 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 dum. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it other than that it's a little jarring, it's a little disconcerting, it's a little uncomfortable, and that's how I wanted it to be. In the choruses took a long time for us to figure out, and I should say before I talk any further that this is a song that we used. The recording that you heard is a recording that my band did live here in Seattle at a venue called the Triple Door. And I knew that we were going to be playing this song at the show, and I knew that we would have the recordings of it, before this is released. So I just used that. So I partially out of knowing that my drummer would be touring, it would be hard to get this song recorded with my own equipment, and it offered a kind of a representation of what my band sounds like live. So leading up to this, the whole arrangement of the song is collaborative. I had the basic structure of the band, the skeleton and the words and lyrics, but the band had a very strong input with each of the elements, and they kind of taking their own instruments and inputting what they thought was going to be the best for this song. So we were working on the chorus, and the chorus was tough to get to a place that we were happy with. And I think even now I would say that given the opportunity, I would maybe work at it a little bit more to find a really solid place. But because the verses are jarring and disorienting, and it's got this kind of weird metering seemingly, that I wanted to have the chorus be something that you land on and feel happy about, that there's a release there. I am looking for a new type of love, fulfilling enough to rid me of my lonely anguish. And I think we landed there. Musically, I think it could have gone completely different, but it's kind of is a rousing chorus. That's kind of the reality is what I wanted, kind of a rousing, this is where I stand, and this is what I'm looking for. And the song ended up being a verse, chorus, and then ending with this big jam. And it works. I think it works for the song. I didn't think we needed to add a bridge or do anything too different from it, because all of the craziness is within those two things. So once we got the kind of the structure down, I started hammering out the official lyrics, and I was telling the story of telling the story through song, and the first verse describing the first part of the story, the second verse talking about the vision of seeing someone you want, but the choruses I did want to have a little bit more of a universal nature to it, something that anyone could listen to and connect with, and I really did keep thinking about. It's just about where we are in the world today, and the shit that we have to deal with, and that so many people have to deal with, and that have never had recognition of. And I kept thinking specifically about the trans community in this chorus, and how reading so many stories from people who are in transition or who are transgendered, that there's this desire to be loved for who they are, and to love themselves for who they are. And that line I kept singing over and over again was the first line of the chorus, which is, I am looking for a new type of love, fulfilling enough. That line, I'm looking for a new type of love, fulfilling enough to rid me of my lonely anguish, that's what I wanted to be the call for everyone, that anyone could listen to it, and everything else in the song could be like, this is weird, oh, this is a bizarre story, whatever, but that line, it would resonate with people, because it resonates with me. I have felt like that, in my life. I've felt lonely, I felt isolated, and I've felt like I don't belong in a lot of ways, but not anywhere near what folks who are transgendered have experienced. Not all transgendered people experience extreme isolation or extreme anguish, but I know a lot of people do. And that's what I kept thinking about. And then the second half of the choruses kind of speak to the story directly. But that first chorus really was like, I want this to be a universal chorus that anybody could sing with conviction and feel a catharsis with that. Because especially the second line being, there's an answer I'm longing to find, ahead or behind, to save me from the nightmare I'm dreaming. And I think when you are, especially when you are wrestling with your identity in such an intense way, in any type of way, that you get really jumbled up and lost. And that's what I wanted to address, is that when you're in that situation, when you're in the really stormy seas, you're looking for any type of lifeline, you're looking for any type of answer, and you might be doing a lot of reflection on mistakes or on your past, trying to mine out and dig through something that can help direct you in your future. Or you might be looking ahead to say, where am I going? What do I need to do? What are the steps I need to take? So that's what the chorus, what I wanted it to be, is a kind of an epic call.
I am looking for a new type of love, fulfilling enough to rid me of my lonely anguish. I am shaking from what I have seen, this impossible dream. So I pack up my bags to find home.
So musically speaking, like I said before, the band, we really arranged this together, and I think what I kind of communicated to the band early on was like, don't be afraid of something that's off-putting. So, the bass, there are bass notes that come out of nowhere that are a little atonal, or there's really just craziness that the keyboard player is doing, ultimately building up to this epic ending. That's this jam that we're doing. It was very fun to play. I don't really know. When we were working on the set for this big show that we did, we didn't know how people were going to react, because it was literally the first time we'd ever played it in front of people, and we had really grown to love it. It's a super fun song to play, and I think people liked it, but I think some of the feedback we got afterwards, this was friends of mine. I was like, yeah, how is that? What did you think of that new kind of love song? And people were like, oh yeah, it was cool, but not like, wow, that was such an amazing song. So I think ultimately we did what we needed to do, was create a slightly uncomfortable song, which is the whole point. So once we got an initial arrangement of it, that we really were kind of nailing out the parts, and I do think that we pulled off a really epic version of this, and I love the guitar solo at the end, kind of ramping up and playing off the erratic keyboard solos just all over the place. And the drummer, my drummer, his name's William, and he just killed it in this song. I mean, really brought it. And ultimately, every member of the band, from Ben on bass and Steve on guitar and Alex on keyboards, I think really brought their best in this song, both in the process of arranging it, but also in the performance of it. The one last little thing is that I wanted to point out is, like I said before, the metering of this is in 6, or the time signature is in 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, kind of a slow 6/8. But the measures, it's 7 phrases, and then it repeats. So the whole phrase is 7 measures long, and that created an interesting challenge lyrically for how many syllables I could put into a verse. And so each line is only 9 or 10 syllables, and that was what was most challenging about writing this, is trying to fit in very specific words in very specific places, because I had a very more of an odd metering to fit my lyrics to. So that's all I've got. Before I let you guys go, we did record this show live and multi-tracked it. We're going to get it professionally mixed and mastered, and it's going to be released as a double album with the band that we played with at the show, which was March to May. It's going to be a benefit for a clinic called the Boyer Clinic, and I have a pretty personal connection with this clinic that I will send out a public service announcement on when it's released, because the story behind why it's personal is has to do with my son. They're a children's clinic that does early intervention for developmental delays, and all the proceeds from the album are going to go back to the organization. So I will post all the links to where you can find out more about Boyer and more about the album that we are doing in the comment section or in the description. So please check it out. All right. Thanks, guys. Stay tuned for the third episode of Deconstructed, where I will talk about Wandering One from the third episode of the first season of Stories to Write Songs About. All of these songs are available for download now. You can visit storiestowritesongsabout.bandcamp.com.